Hey, welcome to Friday Night Tears. I'm Katie.
And I'm Jenna. Let's get into it.
So, since this is our first episode, we're going to spend this first segment, we're just going to call it our introduction, and we're going to kind of introduce ourselves to you guys.
Who we are, what we do.
And why we're deciding in our 30s to make a podcast.
And why you want to listen.
Exactly. So, I guess I'll go ahead and go first and kind of share some of our story. We are celebrating our 15th year
friendship
anniversary this year. We're planning a trip, and we're really excited, but we have been best friends 10th grade?
Yeah, 10th grade. Yeah. It's funny if you want to share how we became friends.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. It's really silly, actually. So, back in the MySpace era, which we'll probably cover quite a lot over this podcast about how MySpace influenced music. But I actually messaged Katie on MySpace and I said, hey, so we both signed up for AP English. I know, nerd alert. And I was like, hey, what books were we required to read? And she replied. I was ecstatic. And
I was really cool, so she wanted to be my friend.
And she told me what books. And that really helped me out, obviously, because I wasn't prepared as a sophomore for this class.
So we had to read The Kite Runner, which ended up being one of both of our favorite books, and we took AP English together, and it was a lot of sorority girls, and then us, a couple of nerdy emo rocker wannabe girls, and we just kind of connected, and now
the rest is history.
The rest is history. 30 years later, we're best friends, and one thing that's really kept us connected throughout
music.
Yeah, throughout our life is music. I'll kind of start by just saying that Jenna has one of the best music tastes of all time. Jenna, if we're at a party, who do people ask to do the music?
Me, but they don't want the good music. You know what kind of music they want. I have to pull from the archives of the music's the party music.
Yes.
And blend it all together.
You'd be a really good DJ for sure.
In another life.
Hey, this is our second life here in the podcast. Maybe there's a third. But music has been something that's always kind of really connected us. So I'll go ahead and kind of share a little bit about what I've been doing the last 10 years. And then you can share that. And then we'll kind of talk about how we came back together. So I haven't lived in the same town as Jenna for the last 10 or 12 years. So we were really good friends in high school, the first year of college. And then I moved away. She moved away. But we really stayed best friends. We're not just that type of best friend that's they were best friends in high school and they talk every couple months or years. No, we have remained best friends that talk every day for the last 15 years.
It's true.
It's insane. And so we've lived separately. I went to college. I was an English teacher for a really long time. Did some assistant principaling. And now I'm in charge of literacy for a big nonprofit in Florida. I won't drop the name. We've just kind of stayed connected through music. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? How we've done that?
Well, we go to a lot of concerts together. My favorite experience of going to a show together, I wouldn't say my favorite, was when you surprised me on my birthday to go see Regina Spektor in Atlanta. Best show of my entire life.
Oh my gosh.
We could talk about Regina Spektor for an entire podcast.
And we probably will.
And we will. Another one is going to see 21 Pilots together.
So
I know.
Good.
They're a great live show. If you have not seen them live, definitely put that on your list.
For sure.
They're amazing.
They are. So we've always kind of just met up. We've always lived on opposite sides of the state or the country and sometimes even the world. I'll let Jenna get into that in a second. But we've stayed connected through going to shows, meeting up, going to shows, and also sending each other music. So Jenna's really good at sending me new music. So we've always just kind of stayed connected through music. Jenna, do you want to share what you've been up to for the last 10 years?
Oh boy, what have I been up to in the past?
I don't think we have enough time for that.
We don't have enough time for that, but I'll try to keep it short and simple. So basically after high school, I joined the Navy and I spent about a better part of my early 20s traveling the world on a aircraft carrier. And then after the Navy, I decided that I wanted to finish my education. So I also went to college, but in a not so fun way. It was half online and half in school, where I was probably the oldest person in the room. And then after that, I decided to work in the hospitality business for a while. And then I finally got my big girl job at a software company
So proud of you.
in HR. So, who would have thought a English gal and a HR lady gets together and talks about music on a podcast?
It works though.
It
Everyone
works.
that we've told about this is like, oh my god, that's perfect.
And we hope you're right.
We hope it is. So, if you didn't guess, this podcast is about music. Spoiler alert.
And it doesn't have to be just music.
That's true.
It doesn't have to be.
Our name is pretty ambiguous.
But we mostly know things about music.
So the reason our podcast is called Friday Night Tears is a couple years ago, one Friday night, we were just hanging out, looking through each other's phones, our Spotify, our YouTube history, the best Friday night ever. And we just kind of started talking about our favorite bands, why we like them, I guess kind of ranking them, would you say?
We were like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we knew which tier they would be in? Like, we were like some masters of like tier rankings, and we're like, what does this band fall under? And we had a system. Like, we wrote it down. We had to discuss it with each other. We had to like be the judge.
We were like arguing, like she wanted a band in tier 2, I wanted a band in tier 3. Like it was a whole thing. So we ended up taking almost every band that we knew and putting it in a tier system.
It was on a piece of paper.
Yeah, and we found it recently, and that is what kind of prompted us for wanting to start this podcast. This is something we've been talking about for a long time.
Well, we thought if we were interested in the tier system, who else would be interested in the tier system?
Hopefully all of you guys. So kind of the gist of our podcast is we're going to be ranking bands, talking about them, researching them, kind of keeping it by genre. So every episode, we're going to pick a genre.
And then we'll pick 10 bands at random, so we're not biased, I promise.
Yes. So we're going to put a bunch of bands into a random name generator. For this episode, we did about 100. We're going to pick 10 bands out, and then we're just going to go through and rank them. Do you want to tell them what our first episode is about, Jenna?
Yeah, I do. So our first episode, which you're listening to now, is we're going to talk about emo bands. I know, the classic
2005.
Classic. So after we talk about our emo bands, the 10 that we initially picked out, we'll go ahead and give you the initial tier, like the OG tier. After we talk about each band, we're going to give you our final tier number, because maybe things have changed since after we looked them up. We listened to some new songs. We did some research, and maybe we were wrong. Maybe we weren't, though.
You'll have to find out. But
then, after the tier system, we're going to talk about on repeat songs. We're going to tell you what songs on our repeat right now, and if time permits, we may move into another segment. But for now, let's get into it.
Let's get into this emo, baby. All right, Jenna. So before we start this, I really got to address the elephant in the room.
What's the elephant in the room?
I feel like everyone has their own perception of what emo music is.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
Like, when you think of emo, what's the first band that you think about?
Hawthorne Heights.
Me too. Like, and I don't know if you guys feel that way, but as we were
Why is that?
I don't know, because I looked them up and like...
Is it because of their one song?
Ohio is for Lovers?
That's the most emo you could ever get.
It is, for sure. So it's really interesting, because as we were doing this podcast and prepping for it and researching it, some of the bands that were categorized as emo, we wouldn't have really categorized them as emo.
I wouldn't have. Some of them actually say pop punk or a pop band, which is very interesting.
Yeah, or rock or screamo, which I guess...
Psychedelic rock, dream pop.
Yeah, like, I think bands can be categorized in a multitude of ways, and I guess, like, if you look up emo, it just kind of talks about emotional expression, so I think any band can really be emo, but I think, like, if you're our age and you grew up in Hot Topic, you have this idea of what emo is, and we're kind of here today to show you that there's 10 really random bands. They're all categorized as emo, and they're all really different. I think that's really cool. So do you want to talk about what our 10 bands are, Jenna?
Absolutely. So the top 10 bands for today, and keep in mind that these bands can be interchangeable. We can bring them up later. They can be in another tier system. This isn't just like a one-time only. But for today, it's going to be the band May, My Chemical Romance, Hawthorne Heights, Taken Back Sunday, Armor for Sleep, Acceptance, Thursday, Cute Is What We Aim For, Say Anything, and All American Rejects.
Wow, that is just a wide variety of bands. So that one Friday night several years ago when we were doing the tier system, we just kind of did it based on what we thought, right?
It was opinion based.
It was very much just like how we felt, our opinions.
Our mood.
Our mood, exactly. So,
you know us women.
Yes. So with this podcast, we're trying to be a little more data driven. So how this is going to work is for each band, we looked up the same things. That way we're keeping it consistent. So we looked up how many like hit singles they had.
How many albums, EPs too.
Yes. How many Spotify listens? And I know this is kind of controversial. I know some people are Apple Music, but we stuck with Spotify people. Okay.
We're Spotify girls.
We're Spotify girls through and through. And then we also looked up how many followers they have on Instagram. And again, to us, that just makes sense.
These are just really basic stats across the board. Maybe in the future we can change up the stats, but this is what it is right now. And if you don't like it, then don't listen.
Exactly.
All right, Katie, get into it. What's the first band that we're going to talk about?
The first band is such a banger, dude. The first band.
You all know them.
We all know them. The first band is My Chemical Romance, and I think, just like we were saying earlier with Hawthorne Heights, I think that My Chemical Romance is also like the epitome of emo. Yes.
And you probably guessed it. What tier were they initially?
They were a tier 1, baby.
Obviously.
They were a tier 1 back in the day, and at the end of this, we'll tell you what tier they were in. But so let's just kind of get into it. My Chem was literally one of my favorite bands in high school, and I was shocked to see some of these stats. So My Chemical Romance has had 18 hit singles. I could not name them all, but that's a lot. They had 4 main albums, and then they've put out several like albums again as re-releases, and they've done a couple live albums. Their last one was in 2016, so they haven't been active for about 6 years.
But they are still fire.
But they were still a tier 1 to us. They have 11 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is I was shocked by that. That's a lot. And then they have 1.2 million followers on Instagram. So that's kind of like just their stats. And let's kind of just get into talking about it. So I'm not going to lie to you, Jenna. My Chemical Romance was...
Don't lie.
I will not. Oh, trust me. All honesty here. They were one of my favorite bands in high school. I was not ashamed to admit that. I'm not ashamed to admit that now on this podcast.
You shouldn't be.
When the I Am Not Okay music video came out, I listened to it and watched it in my room. My room had pink stripes, but I thought I was still emo anyway, even though my room was pink. You remember that room.
And the big, yellow picture frame, it was like a hippo.
Yes. Not your typical emo girl, but, in the morning before school, I would watch the I'm Not Okay music video on repeat. I just thought I was so sad. Like, I was like, I relate to this. I had a crush on all of the members, but the guitarist Frank was probably one of my biggest celebrity crushes. He had the emo swoop, and they were just like the epitome of emo,
They were.
They really were.
So it's funny that you say I'm Not Okay was like your video that you watched on repeat, but can I say it's pretty cliche, maybe, but Helena was my favorite, and I know that was a hit single of theirs for a while, and it was probably on MTV or VH1 music videos, like replaying over and over. But to me, that was an awakening of an inner goth in me. I thought the moment I saw that video, I was a goth queen. Like,
I think you were, though. That's how I remember you. So,
well,
no, and I think that those are probably like the 2 videos that people really like connect with, and that music video was a banger.
There's a lot to talk about My Chem that would require maybe an hour worth of your time.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of keep it short, and because we have a lot of other bands to cover,
Mm-hmm.
Katie, what were some of your favorite songs by them?
Oh my gosh. There are so many. There's a list. This list kind of covers all of their albums. So Cemetery Drive was definitely one of my favorites. Disenchanted, which is like a slower song, but it's really beautiful. Famous Last Words, which is one of their most popular ones. I want to get the phrase awake and unafraid tattooed on my body from that song. I just really love that. And then Drowning Lessons. Those are some of mine.
It's funny you say that because my favorite songs do not overlap your favorite songs. And some bands, I think they might, but this one, they don't. Mm-hmm. So if it wasn't obvious, Helena was one of them. Mama, Teenagers, and The Ghost of You.
Mama is such a good song, dude. It's so different.
Oh, I love that song so much.
Like they were trying something new, but it really did work.
I still quote teenagers. Like, I legit say teenagers still scare the, out of me.
Especially now, dude.
Yeah.
These teenagers don't know about emo music. They
Scary.
really don't. So, yeah, as Jenna said, we could talk about My Chem for a really long time, but that's kind of just a little bit about them.
Next band?
Next band. What you got for me?
So the next band on the list was Acceptance. Originally, they're going to be a tier 3, mostly because I have literally never heard of them. So don't be shocked. They only had 4 singles, so not surprising I did not hear of them. 3 albums and 5 EPs. They have currently 229,000 Spotify listeners. Now, if you compare that to My Chem, that is only 0.5% of what My Chem gets every single month.
Insane.
And then 11.4 thousand followers on Instagram. So, Acceptance is labeled as a pop punk band, which is intriguing because we pulled them up as an emo band. Mm-hmm. They were located in Seattle, Washington, and have been formed as a band since 1998. Their first EP, Lost for Words, was released in 2000, and they toured nationally with Amberlin and Seether in Warped Tour and Corner Store Festival.
Yo, Seether
is an emo band.
Yes.
I think, personally.
That makes sense why they toured with them then.
So, originally, they were classified as emo, which is why they're on the list, but Google says pop band. What do you think about that, Katie?
So, I have some thoughts about that. So, their first... the only song I've ever heard of is So Contagious. I think that was their biggest hit. And that song, just to let you know, that song has 13 million listens on Spotify, and the other ones have about 1 million. So that was their first hit, and it was definitely...
Wait. You're telling me they have more listeners to a song than they do monthly on Spotify?
Yes, dude. Isn't that insane?
Okay.
So that was their first hit, and they had a lot of listens, and it was definitely emo, but they took a really long hiatus. I think it was from 2005 up to 2016 or 17. And since then, they've come back with 2 albums, and their newest album has a very different sound. So I think your Google was right. They're kind of more pop now.
So they changed.
Yeah, they've changed. They've matured.
They've matured.
We respect that. For sure.
So if you had to pick a favorite song from them now, what would it be?
The only song I know.
So Contagious.
So Contagious. It's so contagious. We love it so much.
Okay, so on our next band on the list is Hawthorne Heights. Initially a tier 3. 20 singles, 7 albums, which I was kind of shocked about. I didn't realize they had that many albums.
Me too.
6 EPs, 1 million Spotify listeners a month, and 55.6 thousand Instagram followers. So Hawthorne Heights, in my opinion, took genre emo to a new level. They're classified as a rock band from Dayton, Ohio, which makes sense. Ohio is for lovers.
Yes.
We know them from their hit single, Sayin' Sorry, which listed number 7 on Billboard's Hot Modern Rock Tracks chart. Mm-hmm. Say that 2 times fast.
Yep.
I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but they posted a song on MySpace as a tribute to Smashing Pumpkins' Bullet with a Butterfly Wings. And I love a good cover song.
You do. And I do remember that now that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, remember MySpace came back. And then they performed at Linkin Park's Project Revolution 2008 tour with bands such as Atreyu, Armor for Sleep, another band on our tier list this week,
Ooh.
Street, Drum Corps, and many others, including 10 Years. So even though we know them as emo, they can be described as post-hardcore and screamo, which definitely tracks. Katie, what do you think?
I agree. I think that, they definitely did take genre to a whole new level. I think all of us know that song Ohio is for Lovers, and literally the chorus says, "So cut my wrist and black my eyes." I'm sorry, if that is not emo, I really don't know what is.
We were screaming that at 15 years old.
I was screaming that in my room, and my mother was just telling me to turn it down, and I was in my, again, pink room, and I was like, "Mom, you just don't understand."
It's not a phase.
It's not. It's really not. But I was really shocked at some of those stats that you shared. I was shocked that they had so many albums, and the fact that they're hitting a million monthly listeners,
Still not as many as My Chem.
No, but
Why is everything like revolt back to my chem?
Because they were tier 1. That's what I'm saying. So what songs did you like by them?
So still to this day, Saying Sorry, Nikki FM, and This Is Who We Are.
Nikki FM is definitely a banger.
That's a banger.
One of my favorite songs was Pens and Needles. It wasn't super popular, but I just remember really liking it. And then Saying Sorry was also one of my favorites. So.
All right, what's next on our tier list?
Oh, let's see. Oh my goodness.
It's a good one?
Oh, such a good one, dude.
Tell us the stats first.
Okay. Before I tell you the band?
No, tell the band first and the stats.
Okay. The band is Say Anything.
Ugh.
This might need to be a whole nother episode too.
It has to be.
Because there's so much to talk about. So,
and the cover band that we saw.
Oh my gosh.
They did them wrong.
They did, dude.
We won't say the name of the cover band.
Don't get me started. Yeah. Sorry if you're listening. But so initially, when we ranked them a couple years ago, they were a tier 2. They have 19 singles, which I think is...
That's a lot.
One more than My Chem.
Yeah.
Which is like, that was shocking to me. They have had 8 main albums. Their last one was in 2019, so they've still been pretty active. Like, they haven't really taken a hiatus or anything. This is what shocked me. They only have 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify a month. Now,
that's not a lot.
Let me remind you that My Chemical Romance had 11 million a month.
We keep going back to My Chemical Romance.
I'm sorry, but like...
I mean, in comparison?
Hawthorne Heights had 1 million monthly, and Say Anything had half of that. I would not have thought that. I was genuinely shocked at that.
We actually thought they were deserving of the tier 2 spot, which they still might be.
They still might be, and they only have 32,000 followers on Instagram.
I think TikTokers have more than that.
I know. It's insane.
So tell me what you found out about them.
I've known a lot about them. I've seen them live several times, so I didn't really have to do a whole lot of research. Their lead singer is Max Bemis, and he puts on an amazing show. He's a little bit crazy, and I mean that in a good way. He's been in and out of mental hospitals multiple times, and he writes about that in a lot of his songs, which that makes him a really amazing singer, songwriter, and frontman. Like, he's just completely himself, and he doesn't care who's watching. So he puts on a really good show. I would say that their 2 most popular songs, Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too, the phone ring, you get it in your head, and then Alive with the Glory of Love.
Yeah.
I would say those are their 2 most popular.
The only songs I think anyone knows by them.
For sure. They're both on the same album. Their first album is A Real Boy, and there are so many iconic songs on there. As I've been like looking up and listening to this, I really noticed that all of their albums are so different. They had 2007 In Defense of the Genre, had a lot of screaming, a lot of just like craziness, talking about like there's literally a song called Surgically Removing the Tracking Device. Like, it's insane. But my favorite album that I can listen to cover to cover, a little underrated, came out in 2009. It was their self-titled album. There's a song called Cemetery, which is probably my favorite song of all time. I used to quote it on my Tumblr. On repeat. The line was, "You're in my body, that's where I think about you." And I think that's really beautiful. I could go on forever, so Jenna, you'll have to stop me and tell me what you think.
Well, I literally didn't realize how underrated they were. I mean, I think that's the biggest shocker that came out of this.
I know.
I thought Say Anything was a bigger band than they were. And to me, they were a huge band. I think that me and Katie listened to Say Anything front to back on an album in the car. I mean... All the time. But if I had to pull a few songs out of Say Anything that were probably on repeat was A Walk Through Hell, Spider Song, of course Eloise, and Colorblind, which... Dude... If I'm being honest, like, if you looked at my history in the past, that has been played at least 2,000 times in high school, minimum. I was listening to Colorblind on the way here, and just, like, the quality is so bad. Like, the way that it was, like, just, like, an EP, like, just, like, in their garage, but that song is so good. If you guys have not heard Colorblind, you need to go give it a listen right now. We should post podcast about what songs people should listen to from these bands. Maybe like a
Agreed.
recommendation, if you will.
Let's do that for sure.
Number one being Colorblind from Say Anything.
Yes.
If you haven't heard anything, that's the one to listen to.
For sure. Oh my gosh. Well, let's move on because I think we're both going to get too excited about this. So the next band is the band named May. And when we initially rated them, they were a tier 3. There are 10 singles, which was pretty shocking to me. They have 5 albums, and their last one was in 2018, so they've been quiet for a few years. They only have about 109,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and I don't know if I can believe this in 2022, but they don't have an Instagram.
They're pretty secretive.
They're pretty underground. May is actually an acronym. It stands for Multisensory Aesthetic Experience, which makes them sound really cool. It makes them sound like an art museum, or like you have to you use all your senses when you listen to them.
Which makes sense for one of their songs.
Yes, for sure. And Embers and Envelopes is, I would say, their biggest song. Would you agree?
I would, only because I really didn't know the band initially until I looked it up, and I remember listening to that one.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say you've probably heard that on some of your emo playlists. That was like actually their first song that was ever written, which when I was researching that, I kind of noticed like a trend of that. Like, imagine being a band and writing your first song as your biggest hit. Like, where do you go from there? Like, that's scary. Like,
It is scary.
it's,
Hey, but when you got one, you got one.
when you got one, you got one.
The other song that I remember liking was Kaleidoscope. I really like that one a lot. It's a little bit different. It's like instrumental, but
Okay.
still a great song. Maybe on the recommendation list.
All right, let's check them out. But this is definitely a band that after kind of researching, I definitely want to look more into. But they definitely classify as emo.
So what else is on our emo list? That is Armor for Sleep. I've already kind of teased that one earlier when I said they were on the same tour as, what was the other band? Acceptance. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so Armor for Sleep. They were initially rated as a tier 3. They have 7 radio singles and 5 unreleased singles. They had 3 albums, 1 EP, 204,000 Spotify listeners, and only 9,420 followers on Instagram.
Wow, dude.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Very low. So Armor for Sleep is one of those bands that everyone knew, but not everyone said it was their favorite band. So if you're out there and it's your favorite band, let us know.
Yeah, comment somewhere.
I would love to know. They're labeled as an American rock band, or if you're feeling fancy, atmospheric emo or dream pop, from New Jersey. When reviewing the band, I found a single called Very Invisible for a Masters of Horror soundtrack, and honestly, I kind of love it.
Wow.
It screams 2005 emo. With that being said, I really only had one favorite song, and it was Hold the Door, which I think that's a main one that most people know.
Okay, yeah, I do know that one. And I definitely agree. I'm not cool enough for them to be my favorite band. Apparently only 10,000 people follow them on Instagram, so... but they're definitely classified as emo. A lot of their lyrics are like very emotionally charged. You can tell that like when they're writing, they're very upset or really like helping to deal with something. I do remember that they also toured with Taking Back Sunday back in the day, and I think that kind of helped give them a pretty big start because Taking Back Sunday was like one of the biggest emo bands back then. Maybe we'll hear about them later, but I do remember Hold the Door, but I would say Car Underwater is probably their most popular song. Their whole first album, What to Do When You're Dead, has a lot of hit singles. It's really dark, and so it definitely makes sense that they're classified as emo. But this is I started following them, and this is definitely a band I'm gonna check out further because I listened to like 8 or 10 songs, and
you're into it.
I was super into it. So maybe I'll be one of those cool people soon. We'll see.
You're gonna follow them on Instagram.
We'll see.
The next band is Thursday.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll wait after I tier. But okay, so initially they were tier 3. They had 9 singles, which was more than I expected. They've had 6 hit albums. Their last one was 2011, so safe to say they're broken up.
Or they're done.
Yeah,
retired?
They're retired. They've got about 270,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and they've got 51,000
Instagram followers.
Again, which was kind of shocking.
Because Armor for Sleep only has like less than 10.
I know.
What is this?
It's insane. So Thursday was one of those bands that I didn't really know a lot about, but there was a couple people that growing up in high school that loved Thursday, and I thought that those people were really, really cool. And so I started equating the band Thursday with being really cool. So like kind of like Armor for
like underground?
Yes, like the two people that come to my mind that really loved Thursday, like I thought they were just like edgy, cool, like I wanted to be their friend. And so I've always known about Thursday, and I just always thought they were really cool. In high school, I was pretty like, I liked the bands that I liked. And one thing I really admire about you is that you always kind of go out and look for new bands. But
you know, it's funny you say that, but like, how come I didn't see this one?
There's a lot of bands out there as we've seen as we're going through this, but you know, that's why I'm really excited that we're doing this podcast, because now I can kind of go back and listen to those bands that I really wanted to. But I always thought of them as very emo, just solely based on the fact that my two emo friends really liked them.
I can't really say that I ever remember listening to Thursday. I don't want to say that I did and then I didn't. So I don't recognize even their top song on Spotify. So I think I'm going to take an L on that one.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe that's why we rated them a tier 3.
Yikes.
It's okay. Sorry, Thursday fans.
But we're here for Taking Back Sunday, which is our next band on the list.
Dude.
Let me just talk about this one.
Okay,
so
take it away, girl.
They were obviously initially a tier 1 with 17 singles.
Singles.
Signals. There's signals everywhere. They had 7 albums, 3 EPs, 2.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I mean, that's insane. How many? Oh, Mancam was 11. Just kidding. Not insane.
Not insane.
And then 134,000 Instagram followers. So pretty great. Taking Back Sunday is clearly a well-known band, if you didn't get that by now. Even if you didn't even listen to emo music, you knew who this band was solely just by clout. Like, you just knew who they were.
For sure.
I wouldn't say obviously. I did truly love their music and still do. And I find myself going back to Make Damn Sure for nostalgic purposes only. Their breakthrough album was in 2006, which is Louder Now, and sold over 900,000 copies and even made it to number 2 on the United States Billboard 200. That's huge for emo band.
They were pretty mainstream, dude.
I mean, for emo band, making it on a Billboard, that's pretty great.
For sure.
Again, this is another band we're probably going to have to dig deeper to on a separate podcast episode, because we could probably go for hours on them and maybe talk about some of the controversy with Taking Back Sunday. There is some drama.
Yeah.
Emo drama.
You called me when we were researching this, and I was like, girl, we got to save it for the podcast.
There's drama. So instead, I'm going to offer some fast facts. While recording their first 6 tracks, Jesse Lacey left the band to form Brand New, which could be on another tier system.
Yes.
Contributing the song This Photograph is Proof, I Know You Know, to the soundtrack to Spider-Man 2. I didn't know that.
I did know that, and I think that's why they became so mainstream.
That makes sense. They also participated in Linkin Park's Revolution Project Tour in 2007, also along with him and MCR. A former member of the band, Lacey, allegedly was kicked out of the band Taking Back Sunday after romanticizing Nolan's girlfriend, and responded with 2001 cruelly catchy DUI fantasy 70 times 2. The Enemyville band turned Lacey words against him in a mathy anthem, and there's no I in team. So there's a lot of drama there.
Yeah, there was definitely a back and forth, and as a Brand New and a Taking Back Sunday fan, I remember when I first discovered 70 times 7, I was like, oh my god, this is about Taking Back Sunday. And then when I heard there's no I in team, I was like, oh my gosh, they're in a song war. Like, it's insane.
We'll get into the song war at another time, and we may not have enough time for that today. But regardless, Taking Back Sunday as a band as a whole had some pretty great songs, and some of my favorites were I Felt It Too, You're So Last Summer, This Photograph is Proof, A Decade Under the Influence, and Make Damn Sure, of course.
Love it. Some of our favorite songs here kind of
overlap a little bit.
Yeah, but if I could share a story, my favorite memory of Taking Back Sunday.
Please.
First of all, have we seen them together?
We have not.
Because I've seen them like 6 times, and I'm trying to like remember who the.
I was not one of the 6.
That sucks, dude. We need to make that happen. So one of my favorite kind of memories revolving around Taking Back Sunday is, so every year I have a group of friends and we go to this Halloween theme park together. We've gone every year. It's really nerdy. We've gone for the last 14 years. And we always get really scared before we go, even though we know what to expect because we've gone for the last 14 years. So we time it perfectly. Every single year, when we have like 4 minutes left, we put on Cute Without the E. And we scream it to the top of our lungs just to like try to let out some of our energy. And me and one of my friends kind of like duet the part. Like the end, it's like, hoping for the best, just hoping nothing happens. 1,000 clever lines unread on clever napkins. I will never ask if you don't ever tell me. I know you well enough to know you never love me. And then one of us screams in the background like, why can't I feel anything? And I'm just always going to love that band because that's just a tradition that I really love.
I mean, you can't get more emo than that.
You really can't, dude. You really can't.
If you're able to express your emotions while singing and screaming into the song and letting out that energy, that is the epitome of emo.
For sure. So yeah, we love Taking Back Sunday. Some of my favorite songs, some of these are not really hits, so I do suggest you checking these out. Ghost Man on Third is my favorite song of all time. It's a great song. The Blue Channel, Bonus Mosh Part 2, Make Damn Sure, which... classic. And then My Blue Heaven is very untraditionally Taking Back Sunday, but it's an amazing song. So that's definitely a recommendation that we'll put on
on
somewhere.
The list.
Yep.
On the list. Maybe our Insta. We'll get more followers.
Yep.
Will we get more followers than Armor for Sleep?
Oh, gosh, I hope so. That's the goal.
Watch the listening to this. They're like, wow, rude.
Rude.
So next on our tier list is Cute Is What We Aim For. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of bands on this list I obviously love, but for some reason, Cute Is What We Aim For, I felt like was a personality trait. Does that make sense?
No, I completely understand that. Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that unless you liked the band in high school like myself, but it was a personality trait. So initially we rated them as a tier 3. They had 11 singles. They had 2 albums, which is out of 2 albums, 11 of them were hits.
Are you sure?
That's what it said.
Wow.
I mean, prove me wrong, internet. And then 466,000 Spotify listeners a month. That's pretty great. Still.
So they had the same as Say Anything? See, I would not have thought that.
I would not have thought that too. I know. And then 11.9 thousand followers on Instagram. Still not a lot, but not a little. So, Cute Is What We Aim For is classified as a rock band, which I would never say that.
No.
Emo, one thing, maybe pop punk, but not rock.
Not rock.
They're from Buffalo, New York, and they began their debut through MySpace like any other band and another site called Pure Volume. Their guitarist quoted saying that their success was even due to MySpace as they gained 10,000 followers overnight, which gained attention from their record label that they had at that time. Now, I mean, it's not hard to believe this is where a lot of the scene and emo bands started. I'm 100% sure I had one of their songs playing on my MySpace profile at the time because I absolutely owned a band tier 2 from Hot Topic.
For sure.
And wore it proudly around school.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
It was a blue t-shirt with big white lettering or something.
Bubble letters.
Yeah, bubble letters.
Yes,
It's just Cute As What We Aim For across my entire front of the shirt.
I remember that.
With that being said, some of my favorite songs were Lyrical Lies, The Curse of Curves, Risque, Newport Living, and There's a Class for This. And I honestly had a few more, but I was like, I'm not going to name every single hit that they had.
I honestly didn't know that you were so into them. I love that. I hope that's your new personality trait. I think everyone knows Curse of Curves. Yes. Just that beginning line, when you hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so good. When I was looking this up, the lead singer literally has the ultimate emo swoop.
Ultimate.
I mean, it's like his entire half of the face is covered.
He even has a half face.
It's insane. Yeah, so I didn't really like them as much as you did, but as I started listening to them through the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been...
You could put them on right now and go driving and be fun. It's happy.
Yes.
Though they're emo, they were upbeat, right?
For For sure. And so as I was kind of interested in the lead singer and his hair and just kind of like researching it. And apparently he used to get kind of bullied a lot. And he kind of talked about how the word cute was another word for gay. And so he always said, like, cute is what we aim for. Like, he was basically saying, like, I don't care what people think about me. Like, I'm just going to be myself. If you want to call me whatever you want to call me, that's what we're going to, that's what we want.
I love that.
So I really love, when I read that, I was like, oh, it makes me love them so much more.
So did you have favorite songs too?
Obviously Cursive Curves, but like, I can't say that, because that's everyone's favorite song. I really like the song, I put the Metro and Metronome. It was really upbeat and cool. And then Newport Living was another one of my favorites, but I got to listen to your list here.
All right. So what's our next band? And our last band on the list. We
no.
really went through these pretty quickly.
Wow. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, my gosh. That's so sad.
So drive it home.
All right. This last band is All American Rejects. And when we were putting them in our system and choosing them, I think we were both shocked that they were classified as emo, but I'm going to tell you why they are. So initially we gave them a tier 2. They had...
And then here's why. The clout.
The clout. Everyone, you didn't have to be an emo kid like the jocks in high school. Like everyone knew at least one All American Rejects song.
I mean, it was kind of forced.
Yeah.
The radio made you listen to them.
For sure. So they had 16 singles, only 4 albums, and the last was 2012. So a lot of these bands, I think, like had their prime in their like 20s, 30s, and now they're
out of there.
They're out. 6 million monthly Spotify listeners.
That's like half of what My Chemical Romance has.
I know.
Half.
It always comes back to them.
It always goes back to My Chem.
But shockingly, only 139,000.
Is that shocking? Because 2 bands on this list have like 10,000 followers.
I know.
How?
It's not shocking. You're right. But like I was kind of alluding to earlier, this band brings up a really interesting discussion in the whole, like, what is emo? Their lyrics are very emo, but their sound isn't. And I think that's why we could have a whole episode on what is emo, because I think people categorize emo as a certain sound. But it's definitely about the lyrics. I mean, their first album, their first song is called My Paper Heart. And the first line is, please just don't play with me. My paper heart will bleed. Like, I mean, that's
emo.
But their sound is more upbeat, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's really misleading. Like, because at first I think we were like, oh, they're kind of more like pop punkish, but I think they can be both, and I think that's really cool. I think like Dirty Little Secret was one of their most popular songs.
It was like their radio hit, the one that like everybody knew.
For sure. That and
Swing Swing.
Swing Swing and Gives You Hell for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so we love them. I remember back in the day, me and one of my friends tried making a music video for Gives You Hell. And we shot the same line. The first lyric, I wake up every evening with a big smile on my face. We sat in her room and tried pretending like we were getting up out of bed and smiling 60 times, and it did not work. We thought we were going to be YouTube stars, and we weren't. And that is my memory of them, and we took the L on that one. But Gives You Hell is like such a classic song.
You know, is it even one of your favorite songs though?
I don't think so.
What are your favorite songs?
Okay. My Paper Heart is one of my favorites. Time Stands Still, Mona Lisa, and then It Ends Tonight. That's pretty emo, dude.
So it's funny because I think all of yours that you're listed except It Ends Tonight weren't even like their main ones.
Yeah. I really liked them.
You dug deep into that one.
I was a fan of them for sure.
I have a very fond memory of listening to Swing Swing and seeing that music video. There was a pool involved, right?
I think so.
All I remember is like this carved out empty pool or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking of a different music video. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
I'll have to research that one. Gives You Hell was a hit. I'm not sure I would classify that song as an emo song, more of a pop song, but I did like it. And then It Ends Tonight was probably my favorite song too.
For sure. Really, side note, can we talk about like where did music videos go? Like
that other episode.
We
talk about music videos.
That's another episode.
We tier the videos.
Oh,
we're into that.
We'll do that when we have our video up and running. Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna be fun, for sure. So yeah, that was the last band, All American Rejects. So
All right, Katie. So after everything's all said and done, what do you think our final ranking is going to be? I know mine.
I got mine too. Let me pull them out.
All right. Let's start with, and just to give everyone kind of like an idea. So we were giving the initial tier in the beginning, but since our research, things could have changed.
For sure. So let's start with My Chem. They were initially a tier 1.
But my final ranking's still a tier 1.
Still a tier 1 for me too.
Yes.
So we're on the same page with that one.
Okay. What about Acceptance? What did you tier them again?
They were a tier 3.
Same.
No, I'm saying initially they were a tier 3.
I go same.
Initially and now.
Initially and now a tier 3.
Yeah.
They did not change.
Overwhelming response. But we will check them out. All right. What was the next one? Hawthorne Heights.
Yes.
They were initially a tier 3.
What was your final ranking?
My final is still a 3.
That's interesting. You sure you don't want to change that?
I know that based on the data, like I know we were shocked by some of the monthly listens and the followers, but I would say based on clout, I'm still going to give them a 3. That's just how I feel.
You say clout, but the clout shows they're actually bigger than that. And I'm going to give them a 2.
Wow.
They've moved up a spot.
Okay, that's fair.
Do we have to come to an agreement?
No, I think it's okay that we...
Are you sure?
I think...
Do we have to... We argued in the beginning for the initial ones. I think we have to do the same thing here. I think we have to come to a final. Like, they have to mesh.
Okay, let me look at the ratings again.
Okay.
Let me look at their
You've heard it here, guys. I might actually get her to move it up to a 2.
Okay, they do have 1 million on Spotify.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I know. And that's more than... I think I'm just sad because it's more than Say Anything. But if we're doing it based on data, then okay, let's move them up to a 2.
Yes.
Ugh, you win. Just it's our first episode though. I got to give you a win.
Okay. All right. Say Anything. The next
Speaking
band.
of Say Anything, we gave them a 2. I want to make it clear that when we initially rated them, I wanted to give them a 1.
But based on clout, they were a 2.
They were a 2, and I kept my ranking as a 2.
And I did as well.
But we love them.
We do love them.
Okay. They're a 1 in my heart. Okay. The next band is May.
Initially a 3.
We didn't know much about them at all.
So I guess they stay at 3.
They stay at 3. I mean, their numbers were pretty low. Again, I really am excited to check them out more, but they don't even have an Instagram.
So a 3.
A 3. Armor for Sleep.
Now, originally rated a 3.
A 3.
I gave them a 3 as my final. What did you give them as a rating?
I gave them a 2.
Based on?
Again, the data doesn't really like approve of this.
So would it make sense to keep them to a 2? Would it? I feel like I'm being a bully.
No, they were a 3, right?
Yeah.
Initially. They had 204,000 monthly on Spotify. Thursday had the same. And okay, all these.
So are they a 3 or a 2?
I think they're a 3.
I
think I'm voting with my heart. And you're voting more based on data.
I am a data girl.
You are an HR, so that does make sense.
It tracks.
It does track, and I'm the free-spirited English girl, so.
All right, next band, Thursday.
Initially, they were a 3. They've stayed a 3 for me.
They've stayed a 3 for me as well.
Although I am very excited to check them out and listen to them so I can be one of those cool emo girls.
Next.
Taking Back Sunday. If we are not unanimous on this, they were a 1.
Still a 1.
Still a 1. They're so good. Their clout, their songs, their hits. We will definitely have to do a revisit and do a whole podcast on them.
Next band, Cute Is What We Aim For. They were originally
I think they were a 3. They were a 3 initially.
Okay. And I moved them up to a 2. What did you put them as?
I was back and forth between a 2 and a 3, but I think if we look strictly on the data, they would be closer to a 2. Okay. They almost have the same amount of monthly listeners as Say Anything. And I think that was just shocking to me, but I think we've agreed to move them up.
And All American Rejects?
They were initially a 2.
And
I still put them as a 2.
Me too.
All right.
So there you have it, guys. That is our ranking. In rank number 1 is My Chemical Romance and Taking Back Sunday. In rank 2 is Hawthorne Heights, Say Anything, Cute as What We Aim For, All American Rejects. And in rank 3 is Acceptance, May, Armor for Sleep, and Thursday. Let us know what you think. Did you agree or disagree?
Yeah, let us know if you're like a super fan of one of these bands and you totally disagree. We really want to hear, and this is kind of like the most exciting part for us, is to have these discussions, which is literally why we were making the podcast, so we can discuss it together. So
I mean, we're not experts, but kind of are.
We kind of are. 15 years of emo under our belt here.
Okay. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll move on to our next segment. All right, so we're back from our break and we're on to our next segment, which is On Repeat. It's where we both pulled up one of our most recent songs that we can't stop listening to. So Katie, what was your repeat song?
Okay, so this one was pretty shocking to me. This is an artist that I initially was not really super into and I was kind of against. But the more I've listened to her, the more I've really embraced her, and specifically some of her songs that aren't as popular. So my on repeat song for this week is I Didn't Change My Number by Billie Eilish. It's on her newest album with her hit song Happily Ever After, which everyone knows that song from TikTok and just the world. But this song, I Didn't Change My Number, I think it's my top on repeat right now on Spotify.
So I did not listen to this one or did not know of this one. So Katie had me listen to it on our break. And initially I kind of was like, oh, the growl. It kind of gets you. And I can see why you really like this song by the lyrics. You are a lyrics girl, so I get it.
I am a lyrics girl, yeah. In the very beginning, there's like a dog growl, and Jenna like looked at me and she was like, "Okay, spicy." But yeah, I'm a really big lyrics girl. I think we'll talk about this on another day. But I really enjoy. I think it just as an English major, I really like lyrics, and this song is just kind of about how she's kind of done with someone. They don't really mutually want to be friends or be together anymore. And so she's saying like, I didn't change my number. I only changed who I replied to. Like, I'm just kind of done with you. I don't want to talk to you. And not even the lyrics, but I think this song is just kind of like a funky beat. And she's not really whispering like she does in some of her other songs that, I don't really like that. But in this song, she's a little more like she's vocal. It's kind of upbeat. It's kind of like funky, and I really like this song, so definitely recommend.
It's on your on repeat.
It's on my on repeat on Spotify. So definitely.
Would you put on the recommendation list?
We're gonna put it in the recommendation list, and we're also gonna put a screenshot of each of our songs in our stories.
Yes. Well, actually, I think in Instagram you can play the song if it pulls up.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
So after we post the podcast and it goes live, then you'll actually see what songs from our on repeat.
Got it.
All right. So for me, my on repeat was Driving to Texas by Tom Morello featuring Fantogram. Now, mine's not as mainstream as yours was. Mm-hmm. Many of you may not even know who Fantogram is. They have a few hit songs, but really for alternative indie kind of genre. Driving to Texas is close to 5 minutes, so it's a pretty long song. Mm-hmm. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not a quick one. Personally for me, what drove me to like the song was that it has like a creepy undertone to it. It does describe a journey. So the song itself is a story, which is why I think it's so long. To me, the melody and the beat is just dark. Mm-hmm. It's dark and it's soft. How would you I gave you a listen. What do you think?
So I listened to all 5 minutes, and I knew who Fantogram was, but I never knew what they sounded like. I knew they were like a duo, like a man and a woman. But I'm really into it now that I've listened to them. I'm gonna listen to them on my way home. But I was intrigued by the lyrics initially just because of the journey, but then I kind of noticed how the melody and the beat like connected with the lyrics. And Jenna's right, it's very creepy, very dark, talking about a journey of driving and kind of how the person's feeling and kind of what the drive represents. And it started off kind of slow, and then there's some banging minutes at the end.
It gets into it. I hope that we can tier both of these bands, not bands, well, an artist, if you would, at one point.
For sure.
They won't be in the same tiers, but...
They won't be in the same episode.
No.
But they might be in the same tier.
Possibly.
We're not sure. So yeah, every week we are going to, or every other week when we do our podcast, we're going to pick an on-repeat song that we really like and share it with you guys. And yeah, hopefully you'll kind of see that we're not just emo pop punk girls, even though we do like to talk about that, but Jenna's really has some great music taste.
I hope that in the future we can bring in the Discover Weekly segment. I have a lot in my, what would you say, like my capsule, my library.
Your music library is insane, dude. It really is.
I would like to share it a little bit each time.
Yeah, for sure. So that kind of wraps up our first episode. I think before we end, we just kind of want to talk about what to expect in the future. First, I think we really want to thank you all for listening to the first episode.
If you stuck around this long.
We really appreciate it and we thank you. As Jenna's kind of alluded to, we have lots of ideas for other segments. But typically each episode, we're going to go through a tier list. So
that's the main purpose of this.
That's the main purpose. There will be episodes where we do deep dives on certain bands. Maybe we'll only focus on a couple bands.
Or even do like a discography on a album, like for a movie or some sort. Mm-hmm. So we may branch out a little bit.
But typically the meat and potatoes is going to be talking about music, bands in some way. And then we've got some great other segments coming. Jenna, where can people follow us?
People can follow us right now on Instagram with the tag Friday Night Tears, just the way it sounds and the way it types. Why not?
Not tears like crying. I know you might be emo after listening to all those emo bands, but Tears is Tiers.
You can also find us on YouTube with 0 videos.
Yes, but we're working on it.
It's in the works.
So eventually, we're really hoping that we can make this a video podcast. And like we said, we're going to put out episodes every 2 weeks, every other Friday. And yeah, we really hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let us know on Instagram what you liked about it, what you didn't like, and I'm just really excited to go on this journey with you, Jenna. And
me too.
Yeah, that was really fun.
This was fun.
For sure. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.